When we talk about crawfish, we talk about boiled crawfish, we talk about jambalaya, we talk about crawfish bread, we talk about crawfish pasta, crawfish etouffee, crawfish wrap, and crawfish jubilee.
Imagine there's no pizza. I couldn't if I tried. Eating only tacos or Kentucky Fried. Imagine only burgers is frightening and sad. You're lucky you have pizza to feed your kids for you.
Welcome to the Bombadcast.
What is going on, Bombad fam? It's me, your boy Scotty Jarrett here. Super excited to start off this school year talking about teachers, talking about education, talking with Mark Newbold, and Jerry Cable, the one and only. This is going to be fantastic. But first, let's do some plugging. If you're watching us right now, you're watching the Bombadcast live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 6 p.m. The other California time. I forget what it's called, but I can tell you this much. We're here for a good time. It doesn't matter what time it is. My boy Jerry, he has his own show every Monday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, and it's called Hyperfocus. I think it actually might be moving, but Jerry will tell you that in a second. Like, not moving permanently, just like changing times and dates. But every Wednesday, 8 p.m., you can watch me play old, new, any kind of video game. Happy to be here. And obviously, we did some Mario Kart last night. We had a blast. We even figured out a glitch. But before I get any further into this wild episode with Mark Newbold talking about Star Wars teaching, I got to bring in my co-host, the one, the only, Gerald the Candle to Junkled. Jerry, how are we doing, buddy?
Hey, Scott. Whoa, that was a quick shift. I kind of almost fell over during that one. Hey, man, I'm doing great. And what a way to start out the show. There's no better way than Mr. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name.
Mark Newbold.
Well, we have Mark Newbold. We have Mark Newbold for sure, but I was thinking about this joke the whole time coming in, and now I've completely ruined it because I've overthought about it. Herman Cain. It was great seeing Herman Cain direct from heaven.
Yes.
Singing about Imagine If There Was No Pizza. And we'll get into that here. Hey, we're moving to Tuesdays on Hyperfocus.
Oh, so
we're moving to Tuesdays. Tuesdays at 9:30. Tuesdays at 9:30.
9:30 Central Tuesdays, or 9:30 Eastern?
9:30 Eastern.
Okay.
So just do your math from there because I'm not going to hold your hand. I love you guys, but it's
a conversation you can have right here.
That would be a fun conversation right there. Like, hey, where'd you get your shoes? Oh, nice. Me too. Yeah.
Amazing.
Same. You might want to answer that question, but I don't know. We might want to bring Mark in pretty soon. Mark had to wait all the way through that long ass Herman Cain music number.
Mark is so relaxed. And real quick, Alex, tell them not to freak out. They took this same exact quiz last year, okay? The perks of being a teacher. I teach lab safety, and it's the same lesson every year. And it's the same exact quiz and test. And everyone's like, we don't know what to do. You've taken it 2 times, Alex. You are going to take it a 3rd time tomorrow. Anyway, let's bring
Technically, you should do better than you ever have, right?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah,
we got StarWars.com contributor and Star Wars Insider contributor, the one, the only.
Oh, my goodness.
Mark Newbold. Mark, how we doing, buddy?
Hey.
Oh, I'm very well. Hey, I'm very well. How are you?
Man, we're doing good, dude. I'm happy to have you up so early. Mark is
better,
in the UK currently, and it is like early for him. So we're lucky to have him here.
Mark, I saw you. You said you had you set a timer, like you went to bed early today before I picked up my kid, and I saw, and I was like, oh, God bless you, sir. So,
well, I noticed you're checking the time zones and Central and Pacific and Eastern and all that stuff, and I got it in my head that you were East Coast, which is 5 hours, but you're not. You're Central, which is 6. So I was up at 10 to 1 my time, and then realised that it's actually 10 to 2. So I've just been sleeping on my sofa for the last hour, and then got up again. So I've had 3 sleeps so far. So, but I'll be
nice. So you're very well rested then, right? Yeah.
I would hope so. And also, it's the eve of Bad Batch, right? And I think all of us are kind of jittery a little bit. I don't think the episode's going to be crazy climactic, but I may be wrong, and I may have a whole day of work teaching after that amazing episode, hopefully. So I think Jerry says he's not going to stay up late. Mark and I are under the same belief.
I'm probably going to, because I usually have a really banger tweet that gets a lot of engagement, and you know me, I'm a shill. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to. I want to get that engagement and stuff. So it's just what it is. So.
I get it. And look, I got to make an apology at the very top of this, okay? Last Thursday, we didn't have Bombad, and I will be 100% honest here. It was because I'm a little selfish, and I had bought tickets. To see Suicide Squad, and I forgot that it was the same time as Bombadcast, and I was like, Jerry, there's a lot going on. It was a great movie. Y'all, it was amazing in theaters. It was
I went to see it that night too because at mine it was the first time that I'd seen a movie since I worked in a movie theater that there was a problem showing the movie. So they moved us in from that theater it was supposed to be in to an actual smaller theater. There were a lot of people that were trying to figure out where to sit because they got the assigned seating. Yeah. And there was one less row. So we were all just we all kind of got elbow to elbow for a minute, and we're like, what
do we do?
Let's shift around here. But it was great just seeing and then everyone was like, okay, and then after the movie they didn't even turn the lights back up. They forgot about us, and I was like, I love it. I love it when this stuff happens because I used to work at that for 10, almost 8 years. I worked at a movie theater, and
oh wow,
that stuff it's the worst stuff to have to tell people.
Yeah.
Whenever you're like, can you guys move to this other one? Sorry. You're immediately going to hate me. I know you're immediately going to hate me, but it's whatever.
Yeah. Did you end up seeing it, Mark?
Yeah, we were quite lucky here in the UK. We got it a week earlier than you guys. So I got it a couple of weeks ago, and the first film we'd seen at the cinema since Birds of Prey. So it's quite apt, and we loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah.
So needless to say,
Mark is time.
Mark is a DC guy. He doesn't do Star Wars anymore. He's just full onto the DC universe.
He's given up on all of it. It's not Fantha Tracks anymore. It's King Shark Tracks.
Yeah,
is all it is.
Yeah. DC.com. He writes for them. But no, Mark, we're glad to have you here, man. And I know the best part about all this is the fact that we all have a shared experience with this, right? So before we get into the main conversation, we might have asked you this, Mark, before. I don't remember, but I'm fine with hearing your answer again if we have. Every guest gets a chance to answer this question. It's what is your best? What do you think is the best? What is your favorite? What is the most fun Star Wars movie to you personally?
Because best favorite, most fun.
Best favorite, most fun, and we all have different ways of categorizing these things. And I don't know if you can go off the top of your head, or if you need me to kind of stall for you for a second. But if you can deliver, I would love to hear your best, favorite, most fun, Mark.
Okay, well, I can't remember what I said last time, but I will say the best is, and I'm pretty sure I would have said this before, the best is still Empire.
Okay.
And also my favourite, so it's still it's the best of my favourite, but I would say the most fun, I don't know what I would have said before, but I think I would pretty confidently say Solo, because we used to say, you guys missed an episode last week because of Suicide Squad. Me and Mark, who I do Making Tracks with, missed an episode last week because he was on holiday. And the last time, or one of the last times we actually saw each other face to face was when Solo came out. And we came out of the Empire Leicester Square at the press screening, and we were literally jumping up and down, hugging each other because we were so excited about seeing Solo. So I would say that is a golden memory. So that's what I would say. Best Empire, favourite Empire, most fun, Solo.
Man, Solo 2.
That's a good answer. I love Solo.
I agree. And like Solo has been one of those movies that honestly, and I loved it when I first saw it, but it's growing way more. It's the one movie that I put on that, like, and I treat Star Wars kind of sacredly, unfortunately. So when I do watch a Star Wars movie, I kind of make sure it's my prime focus. But Solo is one of the few I can put on and like go do some laundry or go cook or something and have it not be my main focus. I can just enjoy it and stop and watch it. It's great.
Yeah,
it's great for that reason.
It's got a lot of moments that stop me in my tracks and make me want to watch and stuff for sure.
Yes.
Too, so,
absolutely. Well, fantastic answer, Mark. And Empire, I know we just came off the 40th. I can say seeing that in theaters whenever it came back out was an experience, because I didn't realize how big it felt to me until I saw it in theaters. So that is fantastic.
I get it. Up. It still holds up.
I completely agree. Well, look, fellas, let's talk about this. So right now, I'm making it more about myself, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but a lot of you and a lot of people, I'd imagine, over the next couple of weeks are going back to school, right?
Right.
Oh,
right.
Jerry, you have something you want to say.
Hold on. Yeah. No. We are mandated because we live in the United States of America, and it looks like the giant red pimple on the ass of the world right now because of COVID and everything. But we actually have a public service announcement. Yes, we are all telling you here, go get your vaccine. Go get your vaccine, because they're pushing back movies already and stuff because it's getting so bad here and stuff. I mean, just go get vaccinated, protect the people around you and stuff. And look here, look at this promotion: a free Jar Jar Binks bumpy tongue sucker with every vaccination. Can you beat that? Would be, I think, that what as Watto would say. So yeah, and the answer is no. You can't. You can't beat that. You can't, because these things are, what you're saying, like $1,100 for a pack.
I tried to buy a case of them, and it ended up I didn't buy it yet. $1,100 for like 60 of them. So maybe we'll see. Maybe.
That's a lot. So it's like 60 people. We got you covered with a plasticky tasting tongue sucker.
Yeah, I get it, and I can say this much: it's the perfect back to school gift for your kid. So they'll just bring it right.
Segue. We're pros.
So I don't know what it's like in the UK. I don't know what your summers look like, Mark, or frankly, I don't know what it's like in Michigan either. But as of right now, most Louisiana schools, they're both worlds away from you anyway. It's fine. Okay, you're right. So I've gone back to school. I'm an employed teacher. I teach science, and I am back to school, right? And that got me thinking. Okay, I get really reflective when the school year starts, because you got to think, how can you make it better than last school year? That's just like a really important idea to follow, because you gotta outdo yourself. You gotta outdo it. The kids have expectations now. You gotta make sure you prove them that you can do things better than you did last year. And it's my third year teaching at this school, so like, I don't know, you really gotta like sell it. And I'm the most comfortable I've been ever, like, because COVID was like a nightmare, and it taught me the best way to teach. But the reason I'm bringing all this up is because it had me reflecting a lot about what it means to be a good teacher, but what has Star Wars taught me, right? So I kind of want to go around the table here, and I don't know, I think everyone, hopefully in the chat too, and watching this in post, or somewhere after this is posted, has had a teacher that's impacted their life. And you don't have to share their names. I don't know if you have any stories that some of you want to share, but I think all of us have hopefully had that experience, and I would like to hear some of y'all's, because I do it every day, and I don't realize that I mean, I've got cards from students literally right here. Look at this one card. I kid you not. Look at that.
Oh,
I got
wow.
Jar Jar. I got an Ewok at R2, and this is from an eighth grader, right? And she said, "Thank you, SJ." And I mean, I'm not going to read it, but like, I mean, these are the things that like. Look at this one, BB-8. These are the things you get, and like you don't realize that just by teaching something, it means that much to you, or you get that much out of it from other people. So I kind of want to go around, and Mark, I don't mind if you start, if you can. Was there a teacher that like totally changed your perspective on something, or like changed your life?
Yeah, I say before we started talking, I think I sort of described myself as fairly middle of the road as a kid at school. I wasn't top of the stream. I wasn't at the bottom. I just sort of tootled along.
Yeah.
But I always definitely had a sense of humour. And when I was in 4th year primary, so I would have been 9, I had a teacher called Mr. Holmes, who I thought was the best thing since sliced bread. He was fantastic because he was so engaging. He'd split lessons, so the first half was learning, second half was just fun. But it wasn't until years later when you realised we learnt more in the second half than we did in the first half.
Exactly.
Just the way that he did things. Yeah, and he was the best thing. And just weird little things. Like I was a really quite chubby kid when I was young, tall but really chubby. And I shot up, and I had the Guinness Book of Answers, and I was able to work out that by the time I'd grown up, I would be 6'4". I worked this out when I was 9. That I
No
would
way.
Be 6 and he was 6'3", so I'd got it in my head that I've got to be taller than Mr. Holmes. I've got to be taller than Mr. Holmes. But, years and years later, weird. Years and years later, probably I don't know how long later, 25 years later, he fell on not hard times. He became a head. He moved on. He was was a young man back then. He was probably 30. Then I'm 50 now. It's crazy. He still feels older than me, but he moved on. He became a head teacher, but he had a few issues, problems. He got pulled over for. I'm not betraying any confidences. This is public knowledge, but he got pulled over for drink driving, and it was in the local newspaper.
Oh.
I saw that he was having a hard time, so I can't even remember how I got his contact details. No, I sent a letter to the local paper saying, this was my 4th year primary school teacher. He was a fantastic guy. He was so brilliant. Got me into learning and so on and so forth. And about a year after that, I was in the local supermarket. I see this grey-haired guy, and I'm like, excuse me, sorry. No, this guy is never going to recognise him. Excuse me. I says, are you Mr. Holmes? Are you Martin Holmes? And he says, yes, Mark, I am. And he remembered me from when I was a 9-year-old kid.
Oh,
so little things like
that's
that
awesome.
blow your mind. So he's always been my favourite teacher. He's the one guy that, captain my
That's a
captain. He
brilliant
was the
story. My God, like that's the kind of thing I love hearing because, like, I don't know, the idea of someone struggling and then reaching out and then over the years you reconnect. It's just that's pretty amazing. That hopefully I'll experience something like that one day. That's beautiful, Mark. And do you know
you will you will and you won't even know it. Yeah, you won't.
You're
even
probably
know
right.
It, even though the effect of having on it won't for a long time. Yeah,
that's amazing.
That's so cool.
Jerry, do you have anything you want to share like that? Anything similar or anything comparable?
I mean, I have I had a teacher in 7th and 8th and 9th grade, literature, English teacher. And I mean, I went to a very small school. A little tiny Christian school in Arkansas and everything, right? Everyone knew everybody. It was like the entire population of the school, high school and elementary combined, I think was, maybe just the junior high school was like maybe 200 kids, 200 people. And, I just remember my mom is still friends with this lady. She actually grew up with this lady. Her name is Mary Jane Fagala. She's amazing. She called me Jerry ACE all the time. She always she was friends with my mom, so maybe it was whatever, but she just always helped me believe in myself. Even when I didn't think it was she told me you have very good reading comprehension, you have very good this, very good that, just was a very encouraging person that really helped me. I was way more shy back then. Even into junior, senior and stuff, I came out a little bit more like this after I got off,
Sure.
my Ritalin and stuff I was on. They put me on back, a long time ago, when I was first diagnosed with ADHD. But I don't know. I've had a lot of just teachers like that, because again, it was a small school, everyone knew everybody, and I still my mom will tell me, hey, I saw this person, I saw Miss Mary Jane, or there was another one, Miss Lou Allen, who still teaches there, I think, and she was very important to the last few years of my time there. And it was just, I was lucky to have several good people, including my mother actually did work at that school as well.
Oh, you told me this, yeah.
Yeah, and I was in her geometry class one semester. And she always got on to me more because, as you should, I guess, as parents who are teachers do, you don't want people to think you're playing favorites, I guess.
Yeah.
So I got in trouble quite a bit. And I didn't really, I liked it, but I didn't like it, and things like that. But
Sure.
I lucked out, and I had a lot of very just encouraging people around me, especially again back in the day when ADHD was more of this is just a kid who can't pay attention. He's kind of a blank slate and stuff like that, who didn't see me as a blank slate. They saw me like they saw the potential and things like that. And so
that's beautiful. Man.
It's really cool. It's really cool. I lucked out like that. Scotty, what about you, bud? Do you have any stories?
So, I mean, when you join a career like this, it ultimately leads to a interest in reflecting on that kind of stuff, like what teachers kind of brought you here. And I'm not kidding when I say this, and we'll talk about this later too, but the quote from TLJ, "We are what they grow beyond. That's the true burden of all masters." Like that. And I was going through my education program at my college. When I heard that, I'm like, man, I get it now. Right. The hardest part about being a teacher is seeing the products you make. It could be both good or bad, or, it's just kind of part of it. And, so during that time, I actually went back to my middle school because I was allowed to go observe my school. And it was kind of weird, right? It's kind of surreal. You get to see how the things are made in the kitchen. You know what I mean? Metaphorically speaking. And I talked to my former science teacher. And, now I am a current science teacher, 7th and 8th grade science. And I'm teaching the same exact thing she taught me. And so I went and observed her. And I'll never forget, I looked at her. Her name is Miss Galliano. Okay. And maybe she's watching this. I've had several teachers. I've had, I would say, probably 10 teachers in my life that I'll have completely changed it. But this story stands out to me. She looked at me, and we're looking around, we're talking, and it's just a normal conversation. And I'm in her classroom, and they were doing a lab where they were identifying different types of fossils. And the kids would walk up, and they had their little tray, and they're like, okay, we think we got it right. And she's like, oh, you got two wrong. Go back and see what they are. So I'm watching her do this, and it literally, I'm sitting there, and epiphany, true epiphany. And I'm looking, and I'm like, oh my God. This is where I learned independence, truly independent. It's up to you as a student for you to teach yourself sometimes. It's not always up to the teacher. They present the material, but it's a two-part job. I do my job, which is to instruct you and help you in understanding something, but it's ultimately you to take it and flip the coin, figure out that next part, right? How do I apply it? How do I take it apart? So I'm watching this, and I'm like, I looked at her, I said, you taught me independence. And literally she burst into tears. And then I'm like, she goes, this is why I do this. Is why I do this. And then I burst into tears. I'm like, I don't know. This is what I want to do. And it was one of those moments, and you're like, man, this is where it clicked, right? And I don't know. Since then, it always stuck with me. So I've got former students that, are starting high school right now, and they've reached out to this is scary. I don't like this. I'm like, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. So hopefully I'll have a moment like Mark, and maybe a moment like you, Jerry, with your mom and her coworkers. So it's crazy, man. It's the one job that I think people forget about that everyone has to endure. Growing up,
Absolutely.
You have to endure teachers. You have to meet and get to know teachers, and they don't forget you. And if they do, I mean, it's probably because they taught a lot of people. But it's an amazing job, right? And it's not easy, and the pay's not amazing, but I can tell you this much. I'm excited to wake up tomorrow morning and go to work. I just am. It's just kind of part of it. And this first week of school is always kind of scary. But to kind of tie it back into the main focus, Star Wars, right? We got to kind of bring this up. It's weird, right? And I listened to George Lucas's audiobook, the one that Brian J. Jones did. And it's a great book. Have y'all listened or read it?
I don't
biography?
think so.
Mark, you've listened to it?
Yeah, I read it a while ago. I'd love to get the audio version. That would be far more digestible, I think. But
I wish. Is not George reading it though? Is it?
No. Because but it's 20 hours. It is a long audio book.
Even I can't get past the security.
I just imagine like 24 hours of that. Sorry.
It would be great.
Even I can't get past the security. I remember growing up in Modesto.
So all that being said, there is a section about like Joseph Campbell and even Irving Kirschner, and like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure everyone in this video call essentially knows the story behind all this, but like maybe someone doesn't know in the chat. But the reason George got into anthropology and he got into so many things of mythology is due to Joseph Campbell, who him and George had become super close before Joseph Campbell passed away in '87, right? And so after listening to George's book, or the guy Brian J. Jones's book about George, I was like, let's listen to The Power of the Myth. And I'm listening to that and I'm like, oh my God, this is teaching me so much more than I ever would have expected. And it's just crazy to think that George, even someone who's so influential, he helped produce a whole TV series for Joseph Campbell, right? And Bill Moyers. And it's a great series. But then if you take it and think about it even weirder, with Irving Kirschner, that was his film. Like that was one of his teachers at UCLA? Is that where he went? Am I correct on that? Oh, what is it? Is it UC? Yeah. Okay. So that was one of his teachers there. Yeah, USC. Sorry, USC. Come on. I'm not gonna be able to talk to him. USC. And so Irving Kirschner is the director of, Mark's favorite Star Wars movie. It's Empire, right? And that's amazing. That's crazy that he took his favorite teacher and then flipped it. Oh my God, Steve Palpatine bringing up Plagueis.
Steve, everybody. Steve's here.
But what do y'all think of that? How weird is that George, kind of got up there and then gave his teachers a chance? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just crazy how that kind of works. And I don't know. I'm kind of going on a tangent, but you can see.
Well, it's a good tangent because you've got that passion and stuff about that. You can see it. It's palpable and stuff.
Yeah.
And George was a teacher in his own way of different things, but he also had a lot of teachers growing up. It's that in just hearing of his history. I haven't read the autobiography, but. Or the biography, whatever it was. But, there was like a lot of people who were influential in his life growing up and stuff. So
definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think in terms of Empire, it's a great example because bringing in Kirsch the way he did, Terrible Trouble on Star Wars, he practically had a heart attack and almost a nervous breakdown making it.
Yes.
And to get to Empire when he's kind of already thinking, I don't actually want to be the director of these things. I want to focus on the company and get somebody else in, and brings in Kirsch, who he knew was a safe pair of hands. They were still friends, as you say. There was that teacher-student relationship. Couldn't have been better, really. And I know it didn't exactly go to the plan that Lucas had, and that Kirsch was kind of a bit more autonomous than maybe he wanted him to be. But nevertheless, look at what came out the back end of it. So, it did work out for the best.
It really did. And like even funnier now, if you think about it too, George maybe unknowingly did this too, but he made products of people like Dave Filoni, right? He's telling some of the best Star Wars stories we've seen in years because he learned directly from George. If you watch those behind the scenes from Clone Wars, I mean, George is like, tell him, no, this is how you do a story. This is how you shoot a scene like that.
Even he's passing it on because, a lot of Bad Batch and stuff is like Filoni's just kind of overseeing. He's not like the people who are in charge of the story and directing and stuff. Like you've got people just passing on like all of this just beautiful tapestry that George created and stuff. And so just like and presenting it in new and challenging and impressive ways too.
Yeah.
They take that formula and they No, Mark, you go. I'm sorry.
No, sorry. I was just going to say it's a bit of a time lag. Sorry. I was just going to say I think not as a criticism of Lucas, but as to the compliment Filoni, really. I think Dave's a better communicator in that sense. So I think George had kind of, like you say, brought in all these myths and mythologies and worked it out in his head and kind of knew what he wanted to do with it and got it down on paper and worked with other people to divine it down into what Star Wars is. But I think once that's been imparted to somebody like Dave, who is just a great vocally and just in every sense a better person at putting it across sometimes to the audience. I mean,
Yes.
you know, if you're in a room at Celebration, you're going to get more out of Dave than you would out of George. If that makes any sense, that's not a knock on George. Just that Dave's such a good communicator, so he can whittle it down to a way that you'll go, oh God, yeah, I never thought of it that way. You know, and yet you kind of know it. Filoni rarely says things that you go, I didn't know that. You generally go, I never thought of it that way. And I just think he makes you think in a way that George just, it's there and you go, yep. You know, but with Filoni, he words it and you go, wow, yeah, you know. So I think that's a great thing. And like you say, you know, I think now that's been passed on down to the next crowd. And of course, George had his influences, you know, the Republic serials, the Flash Gordon stuff, World War II films and so on. And Filoni's got his kaiju stuff and his Western stuff. And, you know, everyone's got their slightly different influences with, you know, seeping into their presentation of Star Wars. But the message seems to be the same.
Yeah, and you know what? You made me think of something, too. That's a really good point. You know, we've got Dave doing all this, but one of the best parts from the gallery episode with Dave was the fact that he kind of coached all of them on the scene in The Phantom Menace, right? Where, you know, Qui-Gon gets killed and, you know, the fate of Anakin, the duel of the fates literally is dependent on the fact that if Qui-Gon lives or if he dies, this child's destiny is going to be completely screwed or it's going to be perfect with Qui-Gon. And we see the outcome of that. And like, that's like a 7-minute sequence. Like I've watched it a couple times recently. And like,
it's a big long thing of just him talking. Yes, absolutely. It's so enthralling too. Like you're sitting there, like you're saying, Mark. He's not saying new things. He's not. It's not like. But he's taking the holocron, so to speak, and turning it upside down and going, "Have you looked at this side of it?
Yes,
this angle of it, and everything." And it's. And then things, whatever, maybe things that you just look over, like you said, like with George, it's just like, yeah, I get it. But sometimes Filoni will say has said things that it's just like. It clicks into place perfectly, and you're like, "Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it. I like that." Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and you know what's really cool too? It comes under the fact that, like, in that episode of the gallery, we've got a set of directors that maybe might have not liked the prequels, but Dave has a way of showing them. Well, this is the beauty of the prequels, right? I mean, you've got Taika Waititi and you got Deborah Chow, who are now doing their own Star Wars things, like. She's in charge of Kenobi, which is a prequel, centric show. I mean, that's huge, right? And then Taika's doing, obviously, something very interesting with Star Wars later down the line.
So excited that we got some more news that he's got a story. I cannot wait to figure out what that is. Oh, my goodness. I love that, man.
So with all that being said, and that kind of leading into this next idea, it's like Star Wars is kind of like a really big quilt, right? And you've got all these people weaving their own philosophies into it. But Star Wars has relatively remained the same at heart, right? Does that make sense? Like the story and the love and the passion behind Star Wars has not really changed all that much. Everyone's still excited to be a part of it and be in it. But every director has brought a new tone and taste to Star Wars that I don't think anyone was expecting. And one of the bigger ones I would say is Rian Johnson. Now, I don't know if you liked or didn't like the movie, Mark. It honestly doesn't matter because I think, it's still a Star Wars story. But I think he gave us one of our best moments with Yoda, truly. And I love Yoda. Prequel Yoda, Clone Wars Yoda is amazing. And now we got sequel trilogy or, obviously original trilogy, but yeah, Jerry, what do you want to say? I could see it. I saw your brain fire.
No, I was gonna say, maybe you should see High Republic Yoda. That's all I gotta say.
Okay. I haven't gone down that yet.
Just saying.
But Mark, how did you feel after watching that scene where Luke thought he failed and he's gonna ruin it all, and then Yoda kind of comes in and does something interesting?
I think with Yoda, because he's so used to, 700-800 years of teaching, and like you say, we're seeing it in the High Republic now. He's a very different style. Yoda's not a consistent. Yeah, there's a consistency to Yoda, but he's not a consistent character in that there's periods when he's a bit more of a free spirit, periods when he's obviously has to dive and disappear after Order 66, and there's different eras. It's like the 3 stages of Elvis, isn't it? The 3 stages of Yoda. There's different
right.
Of Yoda. But I think with that same with Luke, I think with Luke, it's almost that you look at Luke and Leia, and as characters, as people, as twins, she's very independent. She's strong-willed. She's organised. She's a doer. I think I've got to say, I think Leia as a character didn't need the Force in those movies. She never needed to be Force sensitive. She, as a character, was strong, independent leader.
Yeah.
Regardless of anything else, I don't think she needed that. Luke is much more passive, much more mellow. Would never have left the homestead if Beru and Owen hadn't died. He would have stayed out of obligation. So he was a completely different character, different type of person. I think the burden of what Luke knew and the burden of what Luke learned was almost too much for him. So for him to impart that was desperately difficult. I don't think Luke was a natural teacher. He grew into it, but almost out of necessity, like he left Tatooine out of necessity. Things kind of, Luke wasn't an instigator, kind of things happened to Luke. Leia was an instigator. She made things happen. I think with Yoda, for him to turn up when he did and be the old Yoda that we knew, and just to lay it all out on the line, and the way that he spoke to Luke, which was so evocative of the way he spoke to him in Empire, when it took Luke took a while to, this is rubbish, what am I doing here, where's this is a load of rubbish, and Yoda's the one that kind of coaxes him into place, the crazy old man again, and coax him into it. It was the perfect moment for Yoda to say exactly what you just said earlier. It's like, well, they are what we are what they grow beyond, kind of thing, and you've got to get your head in the game, really, is what he's saying. You've not failed. It just needed Yoda in that moment to sort of define where we were, because Luke was a bit lost at sea, really.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's funny, the idea, like, people were upset about why would Luke run away from it all, but let's think about it this way too. I mean, Luke learned from his masters. You know what Obi-Wan did? Yeah. Obi-Wan said, I gotta go protect this kid. I'm staying out of the fight. Then Yoda, same exact thing, said, I'm staying out the fight. Yep. So when Luke was isolated, right, he obviously had a lot of time to think to himself. And the fact that, even when Luke sacrifices himself, ultimately, he learns the greatest lesson of them all. He comes back and he's like, you need to treat this thing with respect. I made a mistake. In episode 9, he's like, this thing is worth something. Please don't throw it. It's not, I threw it before, but now here I am learning from my era. And he gives Rey the knowledge and the ability to, live beyond her, what she expects of herself. And I think that really is the ultimate test of all teachers. And I see you, Jerry.
No, sorry. Almost just like a lot of people talk about how they don't feel like 8 gels with 9 very well, but I think that does, in that she's basically, she went there because she's like, I'm doing what you did, and he is it is taking that lesson that Yoda gave him, and it is saying, no, you're taking the wrong lesson. I'm going to teach you the lesson he taught me. And it's like you said, it's teaching her to grow beyond that. It's teaching her to you're learning from me, but you're learning the wrong thing. You're learning from the mistake. You're doing the same mistake I did. You need to move on, and you need to go, and you need to. This is, like he says, this is your fight. Yeah. Right. You need to, like you said, that teacher that helped you learn independence. He's like, this is yours. This is on you. It's unfair, but it's on you.
Well, see, and not many of those experiences happen in real life until an epiphany, right? Until you realize that, oh, wait a minute, this is starting to make sense to me. This is why this teacher treated me this way. This is why certain people act this way around me. Whatever it is, it's because there's something that clicks in your head when you realize, oh, okay, this is where I should be. This is what I should be doing. And Star Wars does that so well, and it helped me realize a lot of things about myself, especially watching it when I'm a little bit older. I'm not as young anymore. I've got a little bit more experience I'm only 26. I get it. Nothing crazy, but I think as you grow older, Star Wars teaches you more, and it has some of the best teachers in it. Like, it really does. And I know I didn't really plan on making a list, but I thought of some before we went live tonight of like some of the best teachers in Star Wars. And not all of them are Jedi. And I need to say that. I think people tend to think of teachers that are like, oh, Jedi. But like, one of the coolest teachers we've ever gotten, I think, to me, was Queel in The Mandalorian. And that first episode of The Mandalorian, which is made and written by Dave, was one of my favorite ones because, he's struggling writing the blurg. And he looks at him and says, Your people rode the mighty mythosaur. You can ride this thing. Try it again. And lo and behold, after that moment, Mando does it. And then at the very end of that, Mando gets the greatest lesson of all time. I mean, he has to learn how to become a dad at that point. He makes a very big decision. So I don't know. I don't know if y'all have any favorite teachers in Star Wars. We can kind of go around with this one too, because I got a couple that I'd like to talk about, but there may be some unexpected ones. Mark, I don't know if you have anyone in mind that you think of when it comes to teachers or just teachers in Star Wars, people that are. Oh, here we go. Let's hear it.
You've already mentioned him. Qui-Gon for me. Qui-Gon. I mean, he's the one character. He was my favorite character in the Phantom Menace, and I think because he's so pivotal. That's why I love the prequels. They're not the best Star Wars films, but I think they are the most interesting Star Wars films because they're the Silmarillion of Star Wars. That's what was behind the original trilogy when Lucas wrote Star Wars Empire and Jedi, and had the chance to go back and make them. And now he fits in all that mythology, if you like, all that. I mean, galactic mythology, the Star Wars story stuff into those 3 films. I'm sure if Disney Plus was around now, that each of those would be a 3-season Disney Plus series. Each of those films, there's more than enough content to justify that. But I think Qui-Gon, like you say, without Qui-Gon being around, Anakin's fate was completely different, completely altered. I'm thinking right now, what happened? If something happens to Hunter tomorrow in Bad Batch, what's going to happen to Omega? He's her Qui-Gon.
Oh my goodness.
So I think if Qui-Gon had been around, the whole fate of the galaxy was completely different. So he's the guy for me. And just Liam Neeson. I mean, he's just an awesome actor, and he's just so great. I just wish we'd got more. Pray that there's some Qui-Gon moments in Kenobi. If they do these flashbacks that everyone's hoping for, and God, Ewan and Hayden don't look any different. Sure, they're lucky buggers than they did 20 years ago. And neither does Liam Neeson, to be fair.
Yeah.
And ILM can take a few crow's feet out and make them just like they did if they want to. So, I think there's potential.
I get it, too. And, Qui-Gon was one of the characters, honestly, from the prequels that, I would have loved to have gotten more of, too, right? And he has some of the best lines the whole entire time. Feel, don't think, use your instincts. That is, amazing. That it should be a quote that you see in more classrooms or, even in, inspirational, list, because, that is so true, right? There's been so many times in my life where, I focus too much on something and then I screw it up. But if I had just gone with my gut, no problem, right? Yeah. And
best bumper sticker ever.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Qui-Gon too is just so zen, and Jerry, I haven't been on the High Republic train yet. I've listened to one of the books. I loved it.
I just like giving you a hard time.
No, so, I know, but you said it's like a whole book full of Qui-Gons, and it's an entire
era. It is an entire era of Qui-Gons. There's some of the best teachers, honestly, in there as well.
Well, who comes to mind for you, Jerry? I was going to ask you that next.
From the High Republic or just in general?
In general, for when I say Star Wars teachers, does anyone really kind of burst into your brain?
I've got an interesting one that I've been rewatching. I've been slowly doing a canon rewatch, and I'm in the middle of Clone Wars. And I just watched the episodes where Boba comes back to get revenge on Mace, and there is a moment towards the end where everybody's favorite pirate. Hondo Anaka, thank you there. Thank you, Jay. Hondo Anaka tells him Boba, he tells him first he tells him, I knew your father, he was a good man, and then the Jedi I think Plo Koon brings him out there and he says he won't tell us where the hostages are, and he goes and basically Hondo gets down in his face, goes, Boba, he's like, tell the Jedi what they need to know. It's what your father would do. It's the honorable thing to do. And it's Hondo it's a very teacher moment there of basically one lovable rogue to you're going to be the lovable rogue eventually, but I'm also apparently going to be the lovable rogue because I don't know what my age is, and I guess I live forever. More Hondo. I love Hondo, but I love that he's in everything now. But anyway, it's just that struck me as a very there's times that there's that whole episode where Hondo is trying to steal from those poor turtle farmers.
Yes.
I forget the name of they're Silum. They're Silum farmers or whatever on Felucia. And it's like, this guy's a bad dude. Like, he's funny and stuff, but then he's got these moments of just actual, like, wisdom and stuff. So that's just kind of maybe not the person you want teaching your kids, but it was interesting seeing that, like, you can learn things from just about anywhere. You can learn, like, sometimes people teach a good lesson and they don't even they don't even mean to. Maybe it's just something like, yeah. So I don't know. That was an interesting one that just popped into my head. Plus, I wanted to play the Jay Leno clip. It's just so funny hearing Jay Leno say Hondo Inaka.
So you know what's really cool too, because you made me really go to this in my brain for a hot second there, Jerry. When you said you got teachers like Hondo Inaka who maybe wouldn't identify as a teacher, maybe wouldn't be the kind of person that would be like, oh, I love my influence on people, or I have an influence on people. There are some people in Star Wars that really don't do that, but they still have this ability to, like, get to you. And like
he was literally teaching the next generation in that moment.
Yes, right.
Like,
and one of my favorite moments too is from The Force Awakens, and I'm sure y'all know this. I don't know if you remember, but back in the day when they first announced Maz Kanata, JJ was straight up like, this Maz Kanata's design and look was based off a teacher I had growing up in elementary and middle school. And there's that one moment where, she does the eye thing and she goes, I've seen your eyes, the eyes of someone that wants to run. I've seen your eyes thousands of times. It's one of the coolest lines. And then later with Rey, she has that very similar moment, like, go child, this is Luke's lightsaber. I mean, this is meant to be with you. Something calls you. And she said it's the Force, and it binds us, it brings us together. It's just, I don't know, that Maz is not a Jedi Master, but she exudes that, right? She is a teacher.
No,
and I
absolutely
just find it incredible. And I don't know, there's other people too in this that I think are, I mean, we all have our favorite Jedis, but we also got people like Palpatine. He might not be the best influence, but he teaches something, right? He's not a good guy.
I mean, he was a teacher. We had Steve talking about how he had a
no, but
I think
Palpatine's got that master politician thing, though, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's
absolutely.
He's really good at
that.
making you. No. Completely fine, Mark. I mean, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that idea of like there's a teacher, but not really identifying as a teacher. You know what I mean? That kind of motif.
Yeah, it's like in Solo, which we mentioned earlier. It's like Tobias Beckett. Han learns so much from Beckett.
Didn't think about that.
And sometimes with Beckett, it is you kind of get the impression it is, come on, kid, sit under the learning tree. I'm going to tell you some stuff. But Beckett thinks he's one of those guys that I'll tell him as much as he needs to know, but not everything I know. And he doesn't quite realise Han is so savvy that Han's picked up the lessons that he didn't think he was telling him, which was why Han shot first at the end on Severine. So there's things like that. So whereas, like you said, with Palpatine's playing the kindly uncle to Anakin all the time, and you can talk to me. I know the Jedi. There's things that go, the whole spiel that he comes out with, especially in Sith.
Right.
But yeah, of course, that's all a means to an end. So that he's playing that grand master plan. I mean, like you said about Yoda running away, Obi-Wan running away. The Sith ran away for 1,000 years, didn't they, before Phantom Menace? So there is a thread of these guys laying low, and let's wait for the things to even up, because the Force is like this, isn't it, all the time? We're seeing it in the High Republic. When do you come into the story? At what point, if the Force was a graph through the Star Wars line, where are you picking your story points? Well, the Force is sort of more in balance here. It's kind of swaying more towards the Sith at this point, so let's write a story then. Maybe that's when the Acolyte's set. I don't know. You could do it almost like a heartbeat. So, but I think Tobias Beckett is one that jumps out to me because, and Han's kind of not enamored by him, but there's definitely he gravitates towards him to a degree.
Yeah.
And Beckett, he loves giving his little story. I want to go back to Glee Anselm and learn to play the Valacord.
The Valacord. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, that's brilliant, Mark. I didn't thought about Tobias.
On the loot. Yeah.
Right,
right. I haven't thought about Tobias playing such a big role, because you watch that scene and you're right. Han does learn the lesson to shoot first, because he's like, kid, you didn't learn everything. Boom, gets shot in the chest. It's like kind of a jump scare too, because I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. But it it's one of those moments where you're so correct, man, because he did learn. He learned, in a subconscious way, right? And my buddy Richard brings up a really good point. And I want to kind of talk about this for a second. Richard said, seriously, though, I like the multiple teacher relationships with Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka in Clone Wars, because that was a really cool dynamic that no one talks about. Those first couple of seasons of Clone Wars, we had really the Anakin and Ahsoka struggling to figure each other out, and then Obi-Wan kind of overseeing it. And that's a lot of
help giving
life.
Anakin some advice and stuff.
Yeah. Like, the Mortis arc is incredible for that reason, because it's everyone in a new area. They all approach it differently, but also you've got learning and like Anakin having to suffer to learn some things. And then even with the first episode, the Clone Wars movie, which I'm sure we all saw, it was just like, Anakin struggling to teach someone something new. It's the lesson he needed, right? And that's the coolest part about, Star Wars and teaching is, as much it is a lesson for me to teach you, or you as a parent, Jerry, and Mark as a writer, we all have to teach and kind of form these ideas, but it's ultimately up who reciprocates it, who takes it in, how are they going to take it in, and how are they going to take it and, put their own spin on it, right? That's kind of a cool thing. That's pretty sick. I haven't thought about that, Richard.
To call back to Yoda from The Last Jedi, we are what they grow beyond and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So, finding that way to spin it and to where it works for them. So
yeah, definitely.
And also, that's something that a teacher has no control over. You won't have any control over the way that your students take the information that you give to them and pass on. Oh, thank you very much, Hollis Chronicles. You can only give them what you can.
Sorry.
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Do that information, isn't there?
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I honestly, this is a real quick little interlude here. I've taught the same group of kids for 3 years. That's their third year with me, and like, I was going over kind of a review thing, today. One of them was like, "You taught us that?" And I'm like, and all the other kids are like, "Yeah." So like you said, it's ultimately what the kids really take in to like learn, right? And some of these lessons aren't not my lessons I teach, but some of our lessons in life, we don't realize how they matter until far later. Okay, you don't know what it means then. You could have learned something about yourself a long time ago, and you don't know what it means until 12 years later or 10 years. Like, it's just the craziest thing. And I think that's the beauty of being able to reflect on things and being able to kind of have these experiences where you're like, well, wait a minute. That's why they did this for me back then, because it would lead me to this point now. It taught me a sort of independence or a sort of ability to realize these things together. And I don't know, there's a really deep subtext to Star Wars. And I think a lot of us may have had lessons from that. And Jerry, you have shared with me before that TLJ came out in the right time for you. And I want you to kind of tell the audience what you mean by that, because Jerry's told us before privately. No, I'm serious, because there's something.
No.
There's some, no.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
There's something to that, though, Jerry. You told me that before. What do you mean by that?
Well, it has a lot to do with this right here, and that's where baby Wookiees come from, kids.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Boop. Thank you. No, Last Jedi came out at a time in my life where I was dealing with a lot of doubt in myself and kind of the things I'd grown up in, my faith and things like that, and it was just a time where, this guy, Luke Skywalker, that I grew up watching movies of him as the hero, seeing him be in a place where he was very vulnerable and very human and very very Luke, right? To me, it was Luke, because he was doing what he thought was best, which was the best way for me to save people is to remove myself from the equation. And so that's a very Luke Skywalker answer. Like, he's very self-sacrificey, like he's all about the self-sacrifice and things like that. He threw away his saber and was just ready to he gambled that Palpatine would kill him in Return of the Jedi. Or gambled that his father would save him from Palpatine if he just threw away his saber and let him kill. And so, excuse me, it's a man that's not. He is a character that is not above or even afraid of I'll go away. And there was a lot of fear to that decision as well. But I think that he believed for himself. And it was just, he was very disillusioned with the Jedi, very disillusioned with all we do is bad and stuff. That was just kind of a time in my life where the political situation in America, things that I had seen from people that I had, back when I was a little more religious, I was going to church with and things. And it was just a time like that story and the story of Ahsoka kind of becoming a little disillusioned with the way that the Jedi had become so dogmatic and things very much stuck with me. That's why that Yoda, the whole scene with him and Yoda rings so true and is such a great lesson, was such a great thing for me to hear. And stuff. I've cried watching that scene before because it is he's telling him, it's saying, look, it's okay to mess up. You're gonna mess up, and people their big thing was, oh well, Luke, he was older. He already made those mistakes. From what I hear, and I'm 34 now, I haven't grown out of making mistakes. Yeah. I haven't grown out of making dumb decisions. You never do. That's what I hear. That's what I hear, Mark. And so to see that go and to hear it reciprocated, Yoda going, look, it doesn't matter what some old books say. He knew that Rey had the books and stuff like that, but it was an example of these things that you are kind of putting up on this pedestal and worried about what you truly care about. Luke truly was a Jedi still. He cared about the universe. He cared about what people and what was going on. He just didn't know the way to help it, right? He felt like he caused it, things like that. It's and it was just kind of like Yoda saying no, all that stuff still matters, and it's okay for that to matter, and it's okay. And it really filled Luke that way he could go to the end of the last confrontation of him and Ben is one of my favorite.
Oh yeah.
On Crate is one of my favorite things in all of Star Wars because he's teaching him one last lesson, and sort of kind of apologizing, but at the same time he's like, you are a space Nazi right now. You joined the space Nazis, but I know he's saying stuff. He's like, I know that I can't bring you back to the light, but I can teach you a lesson that will just completely still leave a little bit. It'll drive that nail a little bit in more for Rey to finally finish, finish driving it in. And Leia, honestly, at the end, finally is the one who finally snapped him out of it by just letting him know, I still care. I called your name and things like that. But just that moment at the end of Last Jedi where he apologizes to Ben and I'm sorry. And I mean, at the time I was like, oh yeah, give him hell, yeah. He's being sarcastic and stuff. But I look back on it now, I'm a little more there's a little more compassion in it than I think I saw at the beginning. Wow. And it's such a good, The Last Jedi for me is just a movie that is about everyone fails sometimes, and it's okay, and you can get right back up with the help of your friends and stuff. You can get back. There's always people to help you, and there's always a chance to get back up and keep going, even when things seem the darkest. So that's what The Last Jedi means to me, and that's what it meant to me at that time.
That was good.
I can go on more. It doesn't have much to do with teaching.
But that was good. It does though, because that was amazing. Because
I used to teach Bible classes and stuff too, and I was I'm in it. I was a true believer, and to have those views that I'd grown up with challenged so harshly, and to go, no, the core values you care about still, truth, justice, love, compassion matters. It matters, and people truly do. Most people are good and want that as well. You got to work with them. You got to work together. But that's some of the things that The Last Jedi came out. It's great that it came out during Trump's America, guys. I mean, it's that was a product of Trump's presidency. I'm just gonna say, it's not to get political or anything. Star Wars has never been political, though, right? Right.
I mean, you're so right too, Jerry. And I had never heard you go off in that way before. That was really well said. That was I want to clip that and keep it on this. That is good.
I'm gonna need more wine after that because that was. We took a
Mark,
trip.
I wanted to ask you this. I know Jerry just had a huge moment. I don't know if anything speaks to you about the subtext of Star Wars, or is there a movie that maybe like, I don't know, that kind of like hit and you're like, man, I get this now. I get on a deeper level. Is there anything you want to share about that?
Nothing overtly. I think because I was 6 when Star Wars came out, so it's always sort of been in the background, and it's the thing that I've always watched and read. But there's nothing when we have conversations like this, and you're sort of laying it out and detailing things, then it very much becomes evident. But for me, I think one of the things that's kept me interested in Star Wars for so long, and I'm still, like you say, people come into Star Wars and they're excited. To me, I can't believe Star Wars is 40 years old, because Star Wars feels like it came out yesterday to me. So it's still got that freshness that other franchises lose for reasonably quickly. Certain franchises, the biggest thing ever, just feels stale after a while. Star Wars has never felt stale, thank goodness.
Absolutely.
So I think I'll just watch it as it comes to me, and then it's later when I'm doing the podcast with someone, I'm writing an article for something, or I'm just noodling down my own stuff. They'll suddenly go, hang on, like you were talking then, and I'm thinking, well, you've got, the Qui-Gon lesson about, Phil, don't think, use your instincts. And I'm thinking, well, that's Han Solo, isn't it? That's Anakin. And you can apply these lessons to different characters. I'm a Trek guy as well, so I think of the triumvirate of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and I think how Luke and Leia.
There you go.
Want to put parallels between the characters there. There's the heart, there's the logic, there's the gut, and the action, and just things that people do. So when you start whittling it down in a Filoni way, and no one's ever going to put it as well as Dave does, but it's it's all there, and I think, like with life, you say about lessons, you learn something, and it might be a dozen years later when circumstances activate the thought that, hang on, I already know this. I know what to do in this circumstance. Or I dealt with that wrong. I'm a better person than that. That's so Star Wars, isn't it? And you don't realise, you look at Star Wars and it's the glitz and the glamour and the visuals and the music and everything else.
Sure.
Underneath it, as are, like you say, so many themes. So for me, watching it, I just let it wash over me. I'll figure it out in my head. On things like this or at Fantha or wherever. Which is why I think it's kept me interested for so long.
Isn't that funny? And they always talk about it being modern mythology, and obviously it is. I mean, it's a lot of tropes we've seen in ancient storytelling that have kind of get reutilized and revitalized just from watching it, right? And I listened to this Joseph Campbell audiobook, and it's like just him, interviews with him and Bill Moyer, and I'm like, my mouth has just dropped the entire time. I'm like, there's so much things that are in this book that Star Wars contextualized for me. It took it and it made it make more sense. Like, I don't know, like I teach science and I love talking about science. I have a deep interest in it. But when Star Wars and science meets, usually it's not favorable. And usually people have a tendency to tear Star Wars apart. Like, it's not scientific, which it's not, it's space fantasy. But the reason I'm saying that is if you watch The Phantom Menace, and funny enough, like you were saying, Mark, it's one of those ones that probably have the deepest themes, probably is the most interesting, the prequels at least, because The Phantom Menace teaches you subconsciously about symbiotic relationships and what happens when those things go wrong. And Jerry's heard me do this rant before, but the Gungans in the Naboo.
I'll buckle in for another one.
I know. Here we go.
Sorry,
Get the roller coaster. So the Gungans in the Naboo are an example of when a symbiotic relationship does not work, because they should be working. They live on the same planet. They have the same interest. They just don't like each other.
It's like people.
It's just like people. But
Really?
then you think about midichlorians, the same exact idea on a microscopic level, and the reason that the Force is influenced is, and you can have the ability to use the Force, is simply because of these little microscopic things living within you that dictate pretty much what you do and what you say. So it's a really kind of a beautiful idea of what is destiny, what is fate, who's really in charge. And I mean, that's the ultimate idea of the Phantom Menace. Who's actually in charge? Is it the things within you? Is it you as a greater person? Is it what you bestow upon other people? Because obviously without Qui-Gon, we wouldn't have Anakin. And Qui-Gon had a really good sense of choosing the right people to put together. I mean, Obi-Wan was like, why did you bring these pathetic life forms on board? And Qui-Gon knew deep down that they would be so much more important to the overall, not just story of Star Wars, but the story of the galaxy. I mean, Qui-Gon had to have some sort of foresight as to what was going to occur later down the line. And he wouldn't have done that if he wasn't so in tune with himself and in tune with the things around him. He brought the Gungans and the Naboo together to solve a conflict. And then you see that in Padme's funeral in Revenge of the Sith, they are like walking with Padme. So
there's moments in the Clone Wars. There's moments in the Clone Wars where the Gungans and the Naboo are working together.
Yeah.
And everything, just for common good and all of that. It really is far reaching.
It really is. And that's funny because, when you take it apart like that, and there's other things in Star Wars too. One of my favorite moments in all of Star Wars is Mace, Palpatine, and Anakin. That is, if you look at how it's shot, it's straight up out of Shakespeare. It's straight up out of like the Odyssey. It's straight up out of so many different things that are rooted. You've got the conflicted character, the one that is the objective good, and the one that is the objective bad. But it's up to the interest of the person as to what you can get out of it, right? That's I don't know. I'm gonna go off on a tangent, but the subtext of Star Wars is just so rich. It's so rich, especially the prequels
and you can keep drilling down into it, can't you? Yeah.
Yes.
You can keep drilling down into it. It's going to keep us talking forever.
Yeah. which is beautiful.
One last one I want to bring up that I don't think people that I'm just now coming to, someone who is wise beyond her years, Padme herself. As a teacher, as someone who stood up for the right and things like that. I mean, just look at all the things that she did, like in the books, in the Clone Wars, even in just the films, just the way that she was able, as a person who was 14 when she was a queen. I about knocked my wine over when I did that. But as someone who was a queen at 14 years old and led a people, and she, under her rule, and again, Qui-Gon helped push towards that. But I mean, she was, after Qui-Gon left, like she took that on, and she was like, no, we're moving on, and let's learn together, let's grow together. She's teaching Anakin things. She's teaching her fellow senators, Bail Organa, all of these people. There's some awesome stuff in. Is it Queen's Peril is the second book. Queen's Shadow, the first one. There's some awesome things about when she first meets Bail and first became a senator, and she is just like, I mean, she's teaching these people things that are like men and women who are older than her. Leia is every bit her daughter. It's amazing. Like Leia is the same. But like you said earlier, Mark, Leia made things happen.
Yes.
And things like that. Leia was a leader. Teachers are leaders and things like that. And I think that Leia, Padme, there's just such amazing examples of that kind of just that spirit and everything.
One thing I think is important to address. Oh, Mark, you wanted to say one more thing?
No, I was just going to say I very much agree. Sorry, we've got a slight time lag here. I very much agree with that. I think, especially about Padme as a character. You look at the Phantom Menace and you think that there's key characters for that film, but you look at I don't know. You look at the Maul Palpatine relationship. There's a student-teacher relationship right there, and a very harsh one. But the best thing that Maul ever did for Palpatine was take out Qui-Gon. And Palpatine knew that. With Padme still alive, Anakin would never be able to let go. Anakin being the character that he was, and of course now he's Darth Vader, but he's still Anakin at core. If Padme's still alive, he's got something to fight for. With Padme gone, he's got nothing to fight for. So her as a character was so influential. These two key characters. Of course, that's where wellspring of all Star Wars, isn't it? Really, the prequels. First thing you ever read in the 1976 novel is basically a précis of the Clone Wars. So it's hugely important as a character. Yeah,
it's amazing. And one thing I kind of wanted to end it on, because we're running a little bit over. I want to end on this, okay? Because this is an interesting concept, and The Mandalorian has taught me a lot personally, and I did not realize I needed to know about myself. Because I mean, especially with fatherhood. Fatherhood comes in all different shapes and sizes, and the Mando is not ready for that. But I will say this. What do you think? Like, I have it written down. what do you want Star Wars to teach the next generation? Because right now, I'm not kidding, I probably have 6 or 7 students in the chat that are just going away. And of course, they're young. I get it. We were all naive at one point, and they're probably naive, but they're probably really smart too, probably smarter than we imagine. But what I'm saying is, what do you want them to teach? What do you want Star Wars to teach the next generation? Like, what is something that this group of kids should leave kind of like how we left with it, you know? I don't know if you have anything in mind. Oh, look, there we go. As a father of 4 daughters, I have to say the very practical teacher in Star Wars that teaches my girls that they can be strong. That's right. You know, that could be the lesson. That could be the lesson, because now I was going to say Rey is one of the very first times we finally get a female Jedi that is a lead. And we've got girls growing up now, like your daughter, Jerry, who likes Rey, and
she gets to grow up with. I have cried for the fact that Rey exists, that there are characters in the Marvel movies that exist on the big screen, because my daughter can have the choice if she wants to. I won't. As much as it seems like I probably will, I'm not going to force her to like that stuff. No. But she's big into. We're big into rainbows and unicorns right now. That's great, but. If she wants to, she has all these strong female characters, Captain Marvel, Rey, like just that she can look up to, and go, look, I want to, I can do anything. I can be strong. I can lead. And,
is that what you want the next generation to learn? Like,
the thing that came to my mind, if I'm going first now, I guess, is just that I want. Like Anakin said in Attack of the Clones, and I believe he believed it. He wasn't just using it to mac on his girl. He wasn't just using it to flirt with Padme. But he says compassion, which is essential to a Jedi's life. I just want Star Wars to teach the next generation compassion.
Wow.
Not that our generation is without it, but there are times in this world where it feels like I don't think you can ever run out of compassion. I think there can be just mountains and mountains. I think we have mountains and mountains to go of compassion still, that we could still use heaps and heaps of it. Sure. I don't think compassion will ever get old as a moral to teach others.
That's
teach
beautiful.
The next generation.
Yeah, I completely agree. I see that like tenfold, because you see it as a teacher, and there's always going to be kids that are just not the star student, or not the student that everyone's like, oh, I love you, you're a great kid. There's some students that kind of take the back burner, and I think it's important to acknowledge that those kids also have these same exact feelings, that they need to be acknowledged, right? And it's through compassion as a teacher or as an adult, you can bring out the best interests and the best features of certain students and kids. And I don't know, Nick wrote something really nice before I get to you, Mark. I want the next generation to learn that they can choose who they are, the same way Rey chose to be a Skywalker, because it could be how you feel both in terms of, your personality, what you can bring to the world, but it's also to acknowledge the fact that we're all unique and we all have these different attributes that can make us who we are, but it ultimately is up to choose what you want to be. You have a choice. And Rey chose to be a Skywalker when she could have chose to be a Palpatine and had the whole universe to herself. And that's her blood right. That was what was given to her. But she decided in the end, this is more for me. Mark, do you have anything you want to share with that? Like what you hope the next generation takes away from these Star Wars stories?
I think in the Star Wars stories, all characters have attributes, all characters have skills, and they steer towards certain things. And I think that's true in life. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So I think sometimes it takes time to figure it out. And I think with Star Wars, a lot of the characters have to figure it out. Luke in the sequel trilogy is still figuring it out. And there's a lot of characters. It takes Anakin time. Okay, he makes the wrong choice, but it takes Anakin time to figure it out. So I think that's maybe one thing that I would say. There's a niche for everyone. You don't leave school at 18 and go, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Some people Some people follow a path. A great friend of mine, we went out for a meal earlier. He went to university, did 2 doctorates. Smartest guy I'll ever know. A stars in everything, just a genius. Went off, worked, taught at the other side of the world, came back, learnt to be a school teacher, stuck it out for 6 months because he hated the paperwork, and now works for the local council delivering library books, and he's the happiest guy I know. And so sometimes you've just got to, the niche isn't what you expect it to be. And I think sometimes, different people just go down different paths. And I think maybe that's a lesson if you want to take it. It's like, don't be defined by where you are at 20 or 30 or 40. Sometimes things can take time to just slot into their lane, and so maybe that's something that you could take away from it, because a lot of these characters have skills and don't know what their best destiny is, and it's about figuring it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, because we're so used to seeing stories, honestly, like even Star Wars is guilty of it, but like you're destined to do greater things, but you don't know when they're going to happen to you. Right. And you don't know when these moments are going to speak to you. And like your friend, that is amazing, where he wanted to be a teacher and he's like, wait a minute, I don't like doing all this. I'm going to go do what I want to do. Right. And that's also part of it too, Mark. And you hit that perfect. Yeah. It's not.
Well, and there's always time when as long as you're breathing.
Yes.
As I think another great thing, that you made.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's crazy, because you do this job, you do a certain job for years and years and years, and then you realize it was never meant for you to begin with. There is something that there might be a higher calling somewhere else, and that's an okay thing to accept. I think that's one problem with the generations before us, and people used to get set in their ways, and that was it. Like, you're going to be a farmer, and that's it. Like Luke was going to be a farmer. He was going to be a moisture farmer until, bam, he gets hit over the head, essentially, with all this knowledge that there's a bigger thing out there, and you can achieve that bigger thing, and that's beautiful. I like that. Jerry, what do you want to say?
Oh, I love how you're just like you are. This man knows my tells.
I can see it now.
I will not be able to play poker with Scotty anymore, or sabacc, whatever we want to play. I don't know. All I was gonna say was just I was just gonna make a plug for Kristen Baver's Skywalker: A Family at War book, because I'm to the part where it's talking about Luke and Leia's early life. I'm to the dark times now in there. I read all the Anakin part is incredible. It's basically like the message, the story. It's basically like if people who grew up in churches and stuff, there's a book that's like basically the Bible, the story of the Bible, the narrative written in a novel form. It's like the story of the entire saga, including pivotal moments in Clone Wars and stuff. For the Star Wars, like the entire like Skywalker saga, it's incredible. But they have very cool, very interesting things about like how Owen and Beru, they were trying to keep Luke from good. They weren't trying to like oppress him. They thought that legitimately, like, this is the best life you can live, is a simple, hardworking, like just simple farmer's life. Yeah. They were trying to give him everything in that respect, and like all that is just anyway. There's just a lot of interesting stuff there. So go read that, kids. It's incredible. Kristen Baver did an amazing job on that. But we've also got a couple of really cool things in here.
Yeah, I wanted to pull the ones up you see, because
the ones I pull up here, I like this one from Seth. Kindness is free, and it can be the most valuable thing you can give a person. Yeah. That's very wise. That is very awesome, Seth. Great. I love that.
Yeah. It's not hard to do either.
It's not. Like you said, it's free. It is absolutely free. You can. The hardest part for you is to choose to not be an a-hole. Yeah. Honestly. The hardest part for you is to choose, like, even if the best thing you can do is probably to even be kind, even when someone is being terrible to you, if it's just in passing or something. I'm not saying stay in abusive relationships and stuff. I'm talking about, like, if, like, someone, like, I was in a drive-thru today and the guy was a little, like, short, but it was lunch, it was a rush and all that kind of stuff. So you let it go. You don't focus on stuff like that. You try to be extra kind to those people so that they can, hopefully have a better day, things like that. It's just it's free, and it can be, again, the most valuable thing you give a person. Scotty, I think I know the other one you're talking about. Is it from William Hardy? The moment.
This is pretty cool.
This is kind of a new.
This is a student of mine. I'm not kidding.
This is very neat. It warms my heart, Scotty. I know it's one of your students. If you want to read it, you can. But this sure. warms my heart, because when we came up with the phrase "Stay Bombad," like that was like just. I mean, that's something that. We just kind of came up with it because it's something Jar Jar says, and it's kind of cool. Like, hey, stay Bombad, guys. But it has grown to mean something to people, and that's just very special to
Yeah.
me.
So he said, I decoded Stay Bombad last night, and it can mean many things, but I decoded it to be yourself, to stay brilliant, so that the Bombcast motto also teaches us stuff. And I appreciate that, William.
Be yourself and stay brilliant. I love it.
He will have me as a teacher next week and next year. And William's a great kid, but I mean, that's kind of, that's part of it, right?
Right.
Nice.
Yes. I will say this because I am an Amazon driver now. So thank you very much. Thank you. Yes.
This is a good one. Look at Patrick said. This is pretty profound. People need to learn to disagree kindly again. That seems to be our biggest problem these days. People get so vitriolic when that kind of thing happens.
It's been a rough several years. I think yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's really important to acknowledge that, right?
Oh yeah. Sorry, you were just going to say I cut across you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just gonna bring up the fact that, like, and this kind of plays into what Hala Chronicles said earlier. The less I'm online, the more encouraged I am about humans. Same with compassion. It's just out there, just not on Twitter, and that's true.
Well, I was going to say to this. What's funny is I've had the opposite experience online a lot, especially through my hard times recently. Like, a lot of you people online are what have kept me positive and kept me doing this and kept me sane, frankly. Yeah. So it can go both ways, it's that little bit of, you can be, especially you should use that compassion on Twitter. Yeah. Just for crying out loud. Twitter has also gave me horrible anxiety, but I choose to focus on the part of it that, all the amazing people like Mark, Scotty, like me and Scotty are together because we knew of each other on Twitter and we met at Celebration. Yeah.
Isn't that very much the Qui-Gon line? Isn't the whole social media thing is that Qui-Gon line? Your focus determines your reality. Like you say,
exactly.
If you just focus on the positive stuff, it's all gravy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. That's good.
That's the thing is, like, there is so much vitriol. There's so much terribleness. But I have met too many amazing people for me. And I'm not saying that that's bad what Hollow Chronicles was saying at all, or what you were saying. There are very bad corners that I don't want to go to, which is why, what's the phrase? Curate your experience. And stuff, on there. Make sure you create your experience. Surround yourself with not an echo chamber, but surround yourself with people who aren't going to drag you down into the depths. Surround yourself with people who are going to help build you up and teach you things that maybe you didn't know before. And that's what it's done for me. And I just pray and hope for everyone to have a better online experience from here on out. And use that block button liberally, kids. Use that block button liberally.
Well, look, I had an absolute blast talking about this stuff. Mark, I know you can get some plugs in. So, Mark, anything you want to kind of plug that's coming out for you soon, or if you got anything going on in your world?
Regular programming at the moment. Fantha Tracks is ticking along quite nicely, so quite proud of that. We've just done a nice site refresh and a server change, so the site's looking lovely and fresh and tidy, like it always does. Brian did a great job. So we're proud as punch of that. And Making Tracks, we're 103 episodes in, I think, now, so that's ticking along nicely. So that's all going good. I also write for Starburst magazine, the world's longest running sci-fi magazine, and that's coming back to print. Wow. We've had a break for a while, so that's back to print in December. We're a quarterly premium format magazine now, so looking forward to that coming back on shelves. And then, of course, there's Insider, which is, I think, issue 204 just came out for you guys. We get it in a couple of weeks over here. So, and I've hopefully got a couple of articles on StarWars.com. I'm sort of waiting for them to be slotted in somewhere. So there's plenty going on. There's always something going on.
Always excellent to hear from you, man. You always write brilliant things. I'm thankful that you can come on tonight too. Seriously,
we are truly honored that you made a time to come on. Seriously, thank you so much.
Late night too.
Yes,
good. Loved it.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Well, look, Mark. Well, I guess we can plug our things, like we said, every Tuesday, Jerry. Right? Say it. Plug your show, Jerry.
So we're moving to Tuesdays with Hyperfocus and stuff. And this coming Tuesday, the inaugural Tuesday, I am having Charlie Ashby from the Imperial Senate podcast, and we are going to get into. You've seen my shirt tonight.
Oh,
we're gonna get into some ghosts. We're gonna get into some Ghostbusters.
Nice.
We are both. He's younger. He's younger than me, but I grew. What's funny is I have connected with so many Ghostbusters fans. What's that?
He's younger than everyone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much to talk about with all of that, and I was a Ghostbusters fan before I was a Star Wars fan, actually.
Yeah.
Like when I was little, it was all about Ghostbusters, and so in fact, me and Nick Milky both talked about. I'm sure it'll come up on that stream too. We both had that firehouse, the Ghostbusters firehouse for the action figures and stuff. You know, they would slide down the pole and everything, and
so awesome,
so great. It was so much fun. But anyway, check that out. And I am actually going to be on. I'm going to be guesting. I'm not joining the Poodoo crew, but I am going to be joining the. I'm going to be guesting on Shooting the Poodoo on the Broaxium Network this Sunday night, and I was told Jackson's in the chat. Chris told me I could say that on here, so I don't think they've put out the thing yet. I guess they're going to put me on. I think they're going to put me with my head on the thing that Jackson made with my head on the Queen Amidala. Like, you know, with the say something about the mother prequels bitch thing that was on Force Connect a while ago. I think that might be my thing on there. And so check me out on Sunday, Shooting the Poodoo. I cannot wait to do that.
That's going to be a blast. That's going to be a blast.
Scotty, what about you, bud?
With me, I've got Bombad Gaming every Wednesday. You know, I love doing this stuff. And one thing I will plug too for that, I've got the whole month planned out. Next week, we're playing a classic from my childhood, third grade classic for the PS2, ATV Off-Road Fury 2. It's like the most stupid, like early 2000s name. Like, how ridiculous is that? ATV Off-Road Fury 2. It's just like, it's so unbelievable. But
I feel like that should have come in like a 24-pack cube of Mountain Dew or something.
Yes, you probably did. And it came with like a Kawasaki ATV toy, I remember.
Oh, wow.
Then I'm playing From Russia with Love. Oh, say it again, Mark. I'm sorry.
Sorry, or with 60 Jar Jar sticky tongues.
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Right. Yes. Jar Jar sticky tongues is just what it's got to be from now on.
That would be really sick.
Yes.
So I'm doing this in the next couple weeks. I don't know if y'all know this. This is crazy. But they did a From Russia with Love video game. I played it growing up. I had no idea Sean Connery came back and did extra lines from the movie, like, for this game, which is insane. It's like one of his last times playing Bond. So we'll talk about that then as well. And, of course, a classic, Destroy All Humans 2. I know Jerry loves these games.
Oh, my gosh. I love Destroy All Humans. That. I hadn't even seen. I guess I'm admitting I didn't look at your schedule and didn't know that was coming up. And so now I will be tuning into that one most likely. Absolutely.
Perfect. So
also this, yes, thank you. And also, let's just put that up with that.
Sorry. I clicked
Oh no, we're looking at it. Sometimes me and Scotty get to it at the same time. Yes, thank you, William. Get vaccinated. Get a Jar Jar sticky tongue. There you go.
Well, every guest gets the opportunity to do this, Mark. And I think maybe Charlie did it last time. I don't know. I want you to get a chance to do it. But we always end the episode with our phrase, Stay Bombad. But before I do that, we have to do an inaugural video. And I know Mark's probably already seen it. But it's
did we do that night?
Play. I don't know, but I'm going to do it right now.
We need to do videos anyway because we've deprived them of their clips tonight.
Yes, we did, and we are deeply sorry. But I know Mark has to go. Mark he's got a lot going on. Maybe I don't know, but I think it's late, and I want to make sure he gets some more.
Mark
rest.
does have a lot going on. Yeah.
Look, we're gonna induct Mark into the one and only club again. He may have already been inducted by this, but we love playing this.
This is official. Mark, it's official now.
It's official. Enjoy this Paul Stanley rendition of the Folgers.
Oh, yes.
This is your wake-up call. Time to reach, go for it all. Folgers stirs inside of me, and I know what I can be. Limit is the sky. Hey world, watch me fly. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
If I could, I can set it to be my alarm. I want that. You welcome, sir. Welcome. I just want I want that song to play every morning when I wake up.
Yeah,
I just want that as the coffee machine turns on. It's the sky. Like it's so good, so good.
It's beautiful. And Mark had a lot to say about Dave Filoni tonight, so I'm gonna let Dave Filoni sing something for us real quick too. Always makes me laugh. Literally always makes me laugh. Oh man.
I wish that was him. I wish that
I really do.
I mean, like in the Mandalorian, like the behind the scenes of the Mandalorian, we're gonna get at the end of the month. Like it has that scene of him singing that song. I would love that.
Oh, some Chicago. Mark, to kill it and end it all together, can you get us a really good Stay Bombad so we can close up the show?
I can try. I'm just warming up now. Okay. All right. How good this will be, but it's the best I've got at 3 a.m. Okay, everyone. Stay Bombad.
Stay Bombad. Peace. You shall all bomb back.